We have been following all of the big policy updates around crypto for the last 12 plus months. One of the biggest things that we have been waiting for is the Clarity Act, right? The Clarity Act is definitely a big one that we have been focused on. And on top of that, the Genius Act got fully passed through. Everyone's now talking about ISO 20022, which, this is what this video is going to mainly be about. We're going to focus on that standard and what's actually going on. But also, if we just go back to the 21st, we did see that 65 crypto firms were urging Trump for action. This got posted from Coin Bureau, and we have about 65 crypto organizations are calling on President Trump to bypass Congress and direct federal agencies to immediately clarify digital asset regulations. This is because the Clarity Act is taking some time. And, it is something that, we have been following on the channel, because the Clarity Act is definitely going to be a big one for a lot of utility-based projects. I think that the utility side of the space, once we have full-on clarity, once we have everything in place that needs to be in place, these utility-based projects will see overall increased, number one, adoption, increased volume moving over them. Integrations will become a reality. And we're also going to start to see a lot more participation from the institutional side of things and even Wall Street. I know that ETFs have been a very big thing. Everyone's been talking about the ETFs for well over almost 2 years now. But the thing is, ETFs are just the starting point. We still have so much more to look forward to in this space. And, over time, we already know that crypto's basically an up game anyways. But with utility and with regulations becoming a reality, I think that the big thing with utility-based projects is that, they will have that increased adoption. They'll have that increased use and demand that will also increase the value over time, which is something that I have always been focused on. Now, talking about that, with the Clarity Act, how close are we to having the Clarity Bill fully passed through? Well, Brian Armstrong from Coinbase did recently say that he was back in DC pushing for market structure legislation. There's been lots of great progress since I was last here, which is great to see, hoping for a markup of the Clarity Bill in December and for it to be on the President of the United States' desk soon after. This bill will get crypto further unlocked in the US with clear rules, which will benefit all businesses, protect consumers or customers, and unleash builders. Let's keep pushing. Check it out.
Hey everyone, Brian Armstrong, Coinbase CEO here. I'm in the halls of Congress, back again, pushing for market structure legislation. We've seen a lot of progress since I was last here. We've now seen draft text shared by the Senate Ag Committee. Senate Banking is also working nights and weekends to get the next iteration of their text out. So we've got a good chance, I think, of a markup for this bill in December, and hopefully get it to the president's desk shortly thereafter. This would be a big milestone to get crypto unlocked with clear rules in the US, which would benefit all companies. But of course, Coinbase wants to be the top crypto company, so we're working hard on product in the meantime as well. And December 17th, we've got our product event, which you can tune on the live stream to see everything we've been building in the second half of this year. Thanks all of you for continuing to show up and contact your representatives and keep pushing for clear rules for crypto in the United States. We will keep doing our part here as well to try to make it happen.
Yeah, listen, the way that I look at clarity is I think that we get clarity by the end of Q1 2026. That's always been my, view here. I just think that, especially even with the recent shutdown, obviously it's ending. Well, it's basically ended now, but the main thing that I'm looking at is that was a huge delay, and it definitely delayed things quite a bit, but I just look at Q1 2026 being, prime time for a lot of things, especially with, clarity getting fully passed through. But the main thing that we're looking at is what these regulations and what policy does for utility-based projects, which just reinforces them. It allows for, easier use of these networks from public figures like, of course, banks, institutional players, even Wall Street. And it's not going to happen overnight, but we'll get there, which is very exciting. Now, I do want to quickly take a pause from the video just to give you guys an update that Decent Wallet is having a Black Friday sale, 40% off right now from the 20th to the 3rd of December. If you guys do want to go and grab a Decent Wallet to secure your crypto, you guys are more than welcome to by utilizing my links down in the description below. And also, maybe you already have a Decent Wallet, you don't need another one. Maybe buy somebody that is in crypto that a gift for the holiday season. This is the perfect time to do so. So what are you guys waiting for? There's links down in the description below if you guys do want to go and, use this time wisely to get a discount on some cold storage devices. Now, with that in mind, let's dive on in real quick to tokenization, because we know tokenization is a huge deal in this space. With Clarity becoming a reality, I think that tokenization is going to be much larger, including even stablecoins as well. Now, we know on some of these networks, we can't really track much value at all. In terms of like Hedera, there's no data available just yet. This is most likely due to the fact that they're still trying to tap into APIs to actually track everything. They're still building this out. However, we do know with XLM, there's over $660+ million tied back to tokenized value. In terms of stablecoins, almost $300 million. So XLM is definitely up there as a big name for tokenization. On top of that, XRP has well over almost $400+ million tied back to full tokenized asset value. This is between distributed asset value and represented asset value. And of course, in terms of stablecoin market cap, well over $415 million worth of stablecoins on the XRP ledger. Now, what's interesting about XLM and XRP is that look at the RWA count, 32 and 47. It's crazy to see how much adoption there is for both of these networks in terms of tokenization. And I think that it's only going to become more and more populated with, increased adoption of, the Clarity Act and more regulations and more policy updates. It's reinforcing these networks in a big way. Now, on top of that, Algorand. So Algorand's tokenized value has dropped off quite a bit, especially since going all the way back to roughly the beginning of the year. A lot of people have like completely forgotten about Algo at this point, and I definitely haven't. I think that Algo is still a pretty big utility-based project in this space, and I think everyone should be looking into Algo because of the tech behind it. I think that Algo is definitely a big one that's really kind of overlooked at this point in this space. But again, over $130+ million in terms of tokenized value. A lot of these tokenized valuations are, still very, very low. I still think that we start to see an increased value growth across the board for a lot of this tokenized value, including, of course, even XDC, which XDC, 36 RWAs already. The RWA transfer volume is pretty significant considering the fact that there's only about almost $14 million tied back to it, with over $170+ million in transfer volume. It's kind of crazy to think about, but I still think that XDC will see a lot more adoption, especially around trade finance instruments and things like that. But we're still very, very early on. But why am I bringing up all of this? Why are we talking about all of this? Well, it's because ISO 2022 just recently went live, and we did see CoinMarketCap put out a full-on category on their site called Top ISO 2022 Tokens by Market Capitalization. Now, with this, we do have XRP, XLM, HBAR, Algo, XDC, QNT, and IOTA. One thing that is so important to focus on with ISO 2022 is that there is no ISO 2022 tokens. Krippenreiter put out a great post regarding this. He said one of the worst conspiracy theories really was the ISO 2022 coin narrative. There was no other narrative that had people hooked this way and incapable of reading a simple FAQ to learn more. I never truly understood what made this one so different to all the other narratives. For a day now, the nail is finally in the coffin. The ISO coin narrative died. God bless. Don't get me wrong, ISO 2022 is tremendously important. Yet that doesn't mean any coin is in compliance or even ever could be. Back to what really matters for the XRP ledger and XRP programmability. All eyes on programmability. And here we have from the official website, cryptocurrencies are not inherently ISO 2022 compliant, but those statements are not correct in terms of a lot of the misleading information regarding, how these cryptocurrencies are ISO 2022 compliant. Now, I said the same thing, which we'll get to here in a moment. But Anderson did, put up a quote here, and he said exactly both that it's helpful for Ripple's bank sales as well as it's becoming a lot easier to integrate Ripple software with the banks having upgraded. And this goes for every single public blockchain company or even private company like Ripple, right? It goes for every company in the space that's trying to build out a bridge to the TradFi space or even just the traditional world with blockchain. It allows for an easier integration. It allows for easier sales. This is Bob Way, a Ripple employee, that, or at least I should say a previous Ripple employee that said that this transition is extremely helpful for Ripple's bank sales because every bank is now required to implement new technology. This is why ISO is so important because, banks need to upgrade now. They need to integrate with new technologies. This just reinforces what all of these major projects and companies have been building towards forever. And I even said that we have been hearing about ISO 222 compatibility for years now when it comes to XRP, XLM, XDC, HBAR, and the list goes on. I made a video about this. The main thing that I was talking about here was what this standard actually does. What this does is that it mandates all institutional players and banks to upgrade their systems to accommodate these new technologies, i.e. crypto. I also said that it is a big puzzle piece right next to, regulatory advancements and government acceptance. This is like another big puzzle piece in the whole landscape of things. And it's not just bullish for Ripple and XRP or bullish for like XLM or HBAR or this, that, whatever. It's bullish for any and all utility-based projects. That's what I said, because it is. All right. With this standard, we're now starting to build towards that future that we've been addressing forever on this channel. And Gilbert Verdian from Quant actually put out a great post regarding this as well. He said, when you establish TC307, which by the way is 10 times more bullish for blockchain than ISO 222. To develop ISO standards for blockchain in 2016, basing it on ISO 222 for mainstream adoption by financial institutions, you've built everything since then with ISO 20022. This is the PDF file. This is ISO TC307. This is the full breakdown of this. And the best part about this document is that we have this here. This was originally what Quant was. It was Remit. This is before Quant was even a thing. We have the Remit private blockchain and database. We have the engine. This connects to other networks, Ethereum, Bitcoin, Stellar, Ripple. You could add in Hedera, you could add in anything, it doesn't matter. This all connects back to banks, to SWIFT, to financial networks, to payment platforms, to international payment frameworks. This is what Quant has built over the years. And Quant continues to develop and build towards this reality where we are going to have multi-chain projects. It's a multi-chain future. So when we compare XLM to XRP and which one's better, it doesn't matter. Those conversations are ridiculous anyways. The main thing that we're focused on here is what Quant is building. I just made a video talking about QuantNet, where Quant said that this was the missing layer in tokenized finance. Why is that? Well, it's because QuantNet connects XRP, XLM, HBAR, even, let's go back to Algo, even XDC. QuantNet allows all of these public blockchains to connect to private blockchain initiatives, to banking institutional players, even going back to this image here. This is the full breakdown of what, Quant has been building. It allows for all of these networks to tap into banks, to SWIFT, to financial networks, to payment platforms, anything. And it's great when you look at the full breakdown of QuantNet on their website. We have QuantNet removes the barriers created by disconnected systems and siloed ledgers. Its patented ISO 222 native architecture allows money and digital assets to flow seamlessly across networks, markets, and participants. That means institutions can finally automate end-to-end processes without costly reconciliation or middleware. And the best part about this is because of QuantNet being ISO 222 compliant, everything that Quant has built is ISO 222 compliant. The best part about this is any blockchain can tap into this. This is why ISO 222 compliance for any project in this space doesn't matter. But what I've said is that ISO 222 has its own benefits and they're great for crypto. In fact, it reinforces crypto. But looking at this, okay, a lot of people are kind of confused on exactly what Quant is, building here. What they are building is a any-to-any network. This is a full-on new operating system for the future financial system. This connects banks to tokenized money and digital assets through a single programmable gateway, enabling value movement across public and private networks, payment systems, and asset platforms with certainty and control. This is built on the proven architecture underpinning GB tokenized deposits with the UK RLN, the Regulated Liability Network. It is seamless, compliant, and ready for global adoption. This is the operating system for the future where everything can connect. Everything has full-on interoperability. Even looking at Overledger, right? Because all of this is built around Overledger as well. Overledger is that connector to anything and everything. You have multi-chain interoperability, cross-chain transactions, multi-chain smart contract execution, scalability and performance, security and compliance. So when we think about what's really happening here, like if you hold QNT, if you hold XRP, XLM, it doesn't matter. All of this works in unison essentially. This is how it can work perfectly, where we connect every single payment rail in the world, every single infrastructure from banks in the world, every financial application, every network, you name it, everything all connected through a single platform that allows for a vast world of, new financial innovation to thrive. Like if we're thinking about all of those digital islands that everyone has talked about for years, we have all these closed loop systems and, this and that is a walled garden. Yeah, that all becomes a thing of the past with what Quant built here, because all of those walled gardens are no longer walled gardens. They can all interact between, public DLTs, private DLTs, traditional based systems, new financial systems. So this is why when we think about what Quant is doing and when we think about all of these standards and all these regulations and everything happening, we're starting to see the big picture here. And it's so bullish for, the future landscape of crypto. We have almost every single thing in place for blockchain to get mass adopted. But Quant is so important for this because ISO TC, like TC 307 is probably the thing that almost everyone should have been focused on this entire time instead of talking about ISO 222. Because TC 307 is the standards for blockchain. It allows for the ease of adoption for blockchain. This is the standard. But it's so bullish for all of these projects. I mean, yeah, whether or not this is top ISO 22 tokens or not, a lot of these are just utility-based projects. But the main thing that I'm looking at here is that all of these utility-based projects, Quant reinforces with what they are building with QuantNet and so much more. This is why the future is so bright for these types of projects. And this is also why we're starting to see every single puzzle piece falling into place. This is why I keep saying, we're watching everything fall into place. Now is not the time to get bearish. Now is not the time to flip on crypto. So with that being said, I hope that you guys enjoy this video.